Today we're going to unpack something that I've been observing for my whole career of 20 years in corporate communication. And also not just in corporates, it happens in small companies as well. So today we're going to tackle the topic of silo mentality. And I'm going to ask you, are you a complicit contributor to the silo mentality, or do you really believe in integration and making things happen across different divisions? So the average customer on a corporate side that we have between 12 and 13 divisions. And in each one of those 12 or 13 divisions, there is between 5 and 11 layers of roles and responsibilities and management. And what I very often see is that we are very good at measuring things individually. Human resources measure the people issues. Customer service measure the customer issues. Finances look at the financial issues. Operations look at the operational issues. And all of them does so with absolute excellence. And when we start to ask questions about things that work well or don't work well, you usually get the answer from one perspective, because there is very few integrated dashboards or measuring tools that look at what happens in an organization when I compare the statistics with one another. I'll give an example. We started doing work with a large retail customer, and we started asking questions. They had a communication challenge, and we started asking operational information. And we received all of these measurements as individual files from individuals who are presenting it. Also, when you go and look at boardroom agendas, they are always presented as separate points. What we did was we got an actuary. We love financial communication professionals, love people who can manipulate a spreadsheet. So we got an actuary and we said, here are 7 data sets. Please put them together and tell us what is the human story between all of this data. So if I am a person in the shop working in this retailer, what does this data say about my environment? We found so many storylines in that data. We saw that the branches, the stores that have most training sessions, that attended HR sessions the most, had the highest sales. Never before did they look at the branch in all its dimensions together and say, if this, then that. If this, then that. Because we report in silos. So the first piece of advice that I want to give you is to actually create measurement in your organization that look for the if this, then that situations. So if you are doing something in finances, what is the effect of that on the rest of the measurements? What is the effect of absenteeism on production statistics? Cross-reference the storyline. What happens with people when they are in a certain process? What does the data tell us about that? So that's the first thing that breaks down silo mentalities. Oh, and here's what you're going to run into. People are not going to want to share their data because it's my data. And I can present it and slant it and statistics, damn lies and statistics. Oh yes, numbers, we can build them and mold them to tell a story that we want to tell. So be expectant of some resistance, but also be expectant to find stuff that you couldn't imagine you will find. Go on an exploratory journey with the data from all the different divisions in your organization. It's going to tell you stories. So why should a communicator be worried about all the measurements in the business? Well, usually the thing that I need to talk to, the behavior of the people that needs to shift, the real reason for a cultural issue or a climate issue is in that data. When I go and look at that data, I usually find the thing that I need to undo, redo change that brings momentum and results in the organization. The second thing that happens is you will find out how many duplication there is. In one client, we found 36 duplicate projects. And just by doing the communication audit and looking at data from across all the divisions and putting people from every division in a room to say, what are you busy with? What's the communication blockages? We eliminated millions of rands of duplicate work in that organization. So communicators, if you want to add value to your organization, do not think about another newsletter. Do not think about anything other than following the people and the processes and look at the existing data. A lot of clients tell me, I don't have money to pay you to do research. You don't have to pay me to do research. Let me look at your existing data and look at it from a different lens, the lens of people in a process, and find those storylines where you can get benefit from a communication perspective. So silos create a safe space. The other thing that happens when we have silos is that I don't have to take responsibility for the work. I can become what I love to call #Teflon. So you will speak to someone in HR who will refer you to someone in compliance, who will refer you to someone in quality, who will refer you. It's almost like phoning your bank, trying to activate a card, but they will transfer you to all those lines. It's a little bit like that. When we manage by committee, when we manage by isolation, when we manage the portions instead of the whole, we create hiding space, and people don't feel that they have the authority to make a difference, to make a decision, to change something. And then it's like, I always use this example. You give a computer, a laptop, to a 2-year-old. You give it to them when it's turned on. They're going to press the buttons and something's going to happen on the screen, and they're going to continue pressing the buttons. But if you give it to them when it's turned off and they press the buttons and nothing happened, they're going to put it to one side and walk off to look for the next thing that's going to give their feedback. And that's what happens when we have silos in our organization. I can only influence this one button that I press, and that gives me a certain result. So I will keep on pressing that button. But I don't have influence over HR or that one or that one. So I become Teflon. It doesn't stick to me. The problem becomes someone else's problem. And in the end, the problem is nobody's in the organization's problem, because we are not collectively responsible for the result. We are individually responsible for the result. So it's very important that your measurements look at the collective, but also look at the influences, the if this, then that. And when you get people to talk around that, the influence I have on other departments and the influence other departments have on me, and what that relationships and measurements do for the organization as a whole, I promise you that buy-in is guaranteed, because people will start seeing results. They will be pressing buttons and something will happen on the screen. They will release very lovely achievement hormones and keep on communicating and interacting and collaborate. So if you're a leader in an organization, I want to ask you, how do you measure? Do you measure just departments, or do you look at the influence that departments have on one another? And secondly, if you're a communicator, I want to challenge you to say, when you look at your organization, do you just see the corporate comms and the marketing comms, or do you look at the organization and go and nitpick and see what are the solutions that I can go and enable in this organization by putting people in a better process and showing them the data, the results of their activities? And that's a very unconventional, non-intuitive way of getting the silo mentality out of the way.